Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of Coco and Daltz. I'm not Daltz.
And I'm not Coco, and I'm loving the music, I gotta tell you. I think we ignore it every time because we're just used to it, but man, that makes me want to dance.
He is dancing right now, actually. You should see him.
Oh, yeah.
It's really sexy.
Oh, white man overbite. Here we go.
So today we have another exciting episode for you, reviewing Season 3 of Goliath.
They're all exciting.
The Amazon original series that just premiered this weekend, if you're listening to us in real time. We binge watched the entire series, all 8 episodes of it, so you don't have to.
For you, listener.
So, Daltz, why don't you give us a synopsis of what listeners can expect?
Okay, so Goliath Season 3 stars Billy Bob Thornton as the lawyer.
Not named Goliath.
Not named Goliath, although his name is Billy. So you'd think it would be Billy Goliath.
It's a stretch for him to play a character named Billy.
Right. Billy McBride, who's a lawyer, who is a disgraced lawyer, who has come back from drunken binges and getting kicked out of firms and such like to become, as it described on the IMDb page, as an ambulance chaser, which I don't think is actually fair.
I don't think that's accurate either.
Right.
Maybe you should say this in your own words and not IMDb's.
Wow, that's a shot across the bow.
Wow, I mean, it's not right. So
this is the thing, is he's out there apparently without any real cases to do because he goes out and does all his own investigating. He goes under the tunnels and stuff like that. So this particular season, the 3rd season, is a friend of his asks for help because his wife dies in a collapse. A sinkhole opens up and swallows her up in, I guess, mid-California, not Southern California, but sort of like mid-California in the desert. And there's a drought going on, and golly, the water is being stolen by corporate farms. And this is the foe that Billy Bob, also known as Billy McBride, is up against in this season. He has taken on big foes in seasons past to varying degrees of success. When I say
hence
that,
hence the name Goliath.
Hence I mean varying degrees of success because I don't think the 2nd season was very good.
Well, in the 1st season, he also won the case and won like millions and millions of dollars in legal fees, which is why he doesn't need a firm because he can just hang out and drink all day and take on cases at his discretion.
Right.
And in season 2,
it went off the rails.
It went completely off the rails. It started off with one case and then it kind of forgot about that case and ended up being about like amputee porn, which is why I tapped out of that season with about 2 episodes left. I was like,
I had to watch the rest of it.
Yeah, this is bad,
and I wish I hadn't.
Like bad even for me. And so now we're back on track where he's taking on basically one big focused case throughout the season. So
Dennis Quaid plays a guy who...
Wade Blackwood.
I was trying to think of his last name. Blackwood, who owns a big, huge corporate farm. His wife, his sister.
They did have like a really kind of...
They had a wifey kind of relationship, though.
Like strange relationship.
Yes. And his sister wants to turn the world into... how do I say this? Like a goop-like addicted... place where celebrities buy all her stuff and stay young forever. And so she needs almonds in order to do this. And almonds take a lot of water. So therefore, they're tapping into a lot of the water that the farms need.
Yeah, one of their agricultural enterprises is an almond farm. And almonds, in real life as well as on this show, take a crap ton of water to produce. So... yeah, so they are stealing water, and she's trying to make this line of beauty products made from almonds. So
called Soop, S-O-O-P.
Not unlike Goop. So, yeah. So there were quite a bit of guest stars, speaking of, on this season. There was Dennis Quaid, his sister. Beau Bridges. Dennis Quaid's sister was played by Amy Brenneman, who you may know from the late CBS drama Judging Amy, which my grandma freaking loved.
Oh, that's where she was from. I recognize her from somewhere. Yeah.
Yeah, so I've seen many, many episodes of
And
Judging
I knew it
Amy.
wasn't like at the Stop and Shop around the corner or something like that. Yeah.
Well, Judging Amy did allegedly take place in the Greater Hartford area. So
No way.
we maybe could have
Really?
maybe could have seen her at Stop and Shop.
So what's that?
Although filmed on about backlot in LA probably.
What's that pitch meeting like when you're going there and you say, now we're going to have a show. It's called Judging Amy. It's about a judge in the Greater Hartford area.
Well,
it's like everybody falls asleep at the pitch meeting.
Well, she's a family judge, so there's a lot of dysfunction in this town.
I'm familiar with family court, so I know how that goes.
Yeah, so
Let's move on from that.
Yeah, so Amy Brenneman, Dennis Quaid, Beau Bridges, who else was in it?
And also a good friend of mine, Graham Greene, Canadian, because all Canadians know each other, so I therefore must know Graham Greene.
Sherilyn Finn plays the wife whose death kicks off the case that Billy takes.
So she and Griffin Dunn are in the opening scene, which I think is very appropriate, because this series felt at times to me very much like Twin Peaks.
Yeah, it was very Lynchian.
And it was very Lynchian in that there was like alternate realities. There was some...
lots of tripping.
Lots of tripping because of the mescaline or whatever they were doing.
Drug use.
Those crazy kids with the natives. So Graham Greene plays a character named Little Feather. Little Crow. He's facilitating some hallucinogens, apparently, for Beau Bridges and Dennis Quaid and some of the other white boys on the reserve.
Why don't they just sell that? Like, you probably don't need a whole lot of water for that stuff, and you could make a ton more money.
Well, judging by some of the hallucinations they had after going on that hallucinogen, they would make a lot of money or they would kill everybody. I think one or the other, there'd be insanity involved. Yeah, so there's a little bit of poisoning of orange juice and stuff like that along the way.
Yeah, so speaking of, what did you think of the season? What did you think of plot developments?
I thought the plot development was a little bit sideways. You know, you would go along and then you'd stop. So what I thought about the series is I didn't like it nearly as much as I liked the first series.
Right.
The first series, it's tough to top a first series first season because you're introduced to the characters, you're getting to know them, they're kind of quirky or they're not. So you're getting to know the characters. Everything's a surprise because somebody will say something and it comes out of their mouth and you don't know who they are, so you're not expecting it. By the time you get to season 3, it's harder to surprise with character development because you're used to these people. The second season was a mess, was completely a mess.
Yeah, it was.
And I wasn't going to go back to this season. I wasn't going to go back to Goliath. And then I got intrigued. And then I like Billy Bob Thornton in the lead role as Billy McBride. He's a likable character, even though he's sort of not a likable character.
Right.
But I overall, I liked this season. I wouldn't watch it again.
Right.
And I also think it falls under the category of the disappearance of McCann, the
oh yeah,
that one is that this was 8 episodes long. I think it very easily could have been 4 episodes, and it would have been just as good. And it would have been maybe even better with some compacted episodes. There are a lot of scenes of Billy Bob standing, smoking a cigarette, thinking about things. There are a lot of wide shots of the desert and cars driving on them, or things moving toward taking a long time to move toward the camera. I always laugh at scenes where somebody will pull up, like as Billy Bob does in the one scene to Dennis Quaid's ranch. He pulls up and he parks like 100 feet away from the front door. And then the camera follows him as he walks up to the door. It's like, why do you do that? Just park like right there. It's, like building the drama of the moment and all that sort of stuff. And Dennis Quaid, of course, is standing there on the porch with a drink like Ricky from Trailer Park Boys in pretty much every scene.
Yeah.
And so what did you think? I've gone on and on about what I think, but what did you think, Coco, of this season?
Well, it was, like you said, it was definitely an improvement over season 2 that I couldn't even watch all the episodes of, so that ought to tell you.
You got all the way through this one.
I did get all the way through this one. Not as good as season 1. I liked that they did focus on just one thing, and it did not go sideways too much. Like, season 2 started off with a kid's death and suddenly ended up in a drug cartel once their Manchurian candidate installed as mayor of LA so they can control the port of LA so they can run their drugs. It's like,
it was complicated.
What? So I like that they kind of got back to just focusing on one case. think that, yeah, they could have definitely. It was still like season 1 was an excellent season, but it was also very straightforward. It was like what John Grisham wishes he could write, like a
Right.
very good, very tight, very tense, twisty legal
Great
thriller.
dialogue.
Great dialogue.
Yeah, it was more of a legal thriller. It was
Yeah.
more straight ahead, too. It was more
Right.
like a traditional TV series
Yeah.
in some ways.
And then season 2 went crazy. And then this season seemed like they had been told, get back to what made you successful in season 1. But they were like, but we're still on Amazon.
Right.
We can do whatever we want.
We want to do some quirky things.
Right. So that hints all the tripping. And
And some of those scenes were like, they're reminiscent of the scenes from The Big Lebowski.
right.
When he's bowling in the sky and there's dancing girls, and it was very similar. Like you're going to think, what? And Billy Bob is in drag or
Right,
Victorian
yeah.
makeup at one point, and you're just kind of like, what?
It did kind of, speaking of, like, it did kind of annoy me a little bit because some of the stuff that happened was like so obvious. So he's suing Dennis Quaid and he doesn't want to go back to LA, so he needs lodging in the Central Valley. So he stays at Dennis Quaid's hotel, and it somehow doesn't occur to him that maybe there would try to be some kind of sabotage while he's,
Or spying.
yeah, holed up in this hotel room owned by the person he's suing. Like it takes him until it's 8 episodes, until episode 6 to figure out that he's getting drugged by the kitchen staff.
Right.
Like, and I don't know if he ever figured out that his documents, his, classified important legal documents that were being shoved under his hotel room door were being photographed by.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I'm like, when he finally figured it out, I was just like, you're smarter than this. Like, why didn't you anticipate that maybe this would be a thing? So there were some things that were, it also kind of bothered me. So Amy Brenneman's character was just clearly crackers. But she had adopted 2 children previously and raised them. But they were both black boys. And I'm like, I felt kind of like the show fetishized them
Yeah.
a little bit. Like it was just like really strange, their treatment and like the whole native thing with the little crow. People just talking weird about it and like, oh, he turns into a crow. Like it was just like really kind of problematic, and they didn't really kind of know what, like the 2 black kids were basically just treated as props. Like there was no real development there either. And I understand that they were minor characters and stuff, but I was like, we don't even really need them as characters in this at all. Like if you take them, like you said, if this season could be cut down from 8 episodes to like probably 4, like you could take those characters away. And you already know that she's nuts. You don't need to know that she's a bad mom on top of that.
Right.
So,
Well, I think that was done under the guise of character development, like you said, and like an arc. And here's why she's twisted, and here's why she's got these guys under her finger. Like she could tell them to do whatever she wanted to, and they would do it pretty much.
yeah.
And
but
so
you could also pay a lackey for that.
Right,
So.
right. And I think that those guys were, and I'm trying to find who they are in the IMDb listing, but they were, I think they did I think there's only one guy. I think there's only one guy acting that and doing the same role because they were twin brothers, right?
Well, I think the one who was deaf, I believe he might have had a cleft palate. So unless that was like a stunningly good makeup job.
But I thought that might have been makeup. So
Okay, it could have been makeup, but anyways.
those guy were very good, I thought, at doing what they were doing because it was creepy
Yeah.
and drove the story along a little bit. But like you said, it wasn't really necessary. It could have been a lackey guy who could have stepped in and done that.
Right,
There were
I
enough
mean-
tangential characters in this
Right.
to provide color and to provide, like Ilena Douglas, who played the bartender, or sorry, the barfly
Yeah.
in the casino. She was great. And then the Asian woman who was a former
I hated
client.
her.
Oh, she was great.
I
though.
hated her.
Yeah,
Like,
she was.
She
She
could
was
have been
supposed to be hateable.
completely cut out of. I mean, she didn't serve any purpose, like
She did
except
serve
to
a
make
couple
him finally figure out he was getting drugged. But he could have done that another way.
But there was some tipping. She tipped some things. She tipped the story in a couple of directions. So I think that She was annoying, but that was what she was supposed to do. And then I think my favorite character and she's been in all the episodes, obviously, is played by Nina Arianda, who is Patty, and I won't try to pronounce her last name because she always corrects people whenever they pronounce it in the show. So
Solis Papazian.
There you go. She is great. Like, I would watch a show starring just her.
Yeah, please, Amazon, can you make this happen?
Like spin her off and put her into something, because she is great. She says things that you're not expecting, but keeping within the framework of her character.
Right. She doesn't do anything unbelievable.
She doesn't do anything unbelievable. She's smart. She's strong. She's independent. Like, she's not a female wallflower, as some of these shows will do. And there's a lot of strong women in this show, actually. So there's no danger of that. But I liked her. I like Billy Bob because he's Billy Bob. I mean, he's just playing himself. But Nina Arianda was fantastic, and I would watch a series starring just her. Maybe there will be a spinoff.
Me too.
Patty.
That'd be awesome. I will say, speaking of strong women, Amy Brenneman, I did feel a tiny little kernel of sympathy for that character, even though she's a completely horrible, horrible person. But
no,
she was clearly getting screwed by her brother. Like, she's their family. You would think that she would have a stake in the company.
But she was manipulative.
Well, she was manipulative, yes, but she was also...
She was crackers, like you said.
Yeah, she was crackers, but just... She had to... And he was bankrolling her stupid soup thing and everything, but, like, she didn't have anything separate. Like, can you imagine what it's like to have to go to your brother and be like, hey, I want to start up this beauty company. Like, even though we're siblings and we should have totally inherited the family farm and I should be getting half of this,
right.
Can you please give me money? And, like, all the male characters kind of, like, talk down to her. Like, in one of the first couple episodes, Beau Bridges, you know, she said something to him that was probably completely unreasonable, but he was like, don't get your panties in a bunch. I'm like, well, you know, so there was a tiny little kernel of me that felt bad for her from, like, a feminist perspective, because what could she... Maybe she wouldn't have been crackers if everything had been on the up and up, and her brother would have cut her into the company, and she could have, you know, had recognition that way. I mean, you know. And
there is one scene where the car crash happens, and I won't go into the spoiler, but you feel some sympathy for her and what happened before that and what led to that. And I think as a working parent with kids, I can sympathize with that as well. As you're looking for that big break and you want to set your kids up and you want to take them out to the ice cream store.
This is a flashback scene. This isn't in the present time that the lawsuit is happening in.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that there was a little bit of sympathy, but I didn't have any sympathy for her at the end. She was out. Dennis Quaid was out. Like, so the character, the actor who played the twins, his name is Shamier Anderson, or Chamier, because I say Chamier because he's from Toronto, Ontario.
Oh, okay, so awesome.
Maybe he has a French pronunciation of his name, but I thought he was fantastic. I really, even though, like you said, I agreed the characters were sort of superfluous to the plot. He playing Amy's sons they were like the heavies. They were like the one guy who had the cleft palate wasn't, and he was deaf. He didn't necessarily have as much to do as the other brother, but they were interesting, but they were all part of that whole Twin Peaks vibe. Yeah, definitely. Because he kept calling them, she kept calling them her children, and they were mom's this, mom that, and so you knew somewhere right away because they were very different. You knew that there was a story there that they were going to get to eventually. But the way that he acted, the one who didn't have the cleft palate, very creepy, friendly, and that sort of thing. And so, like,
cult member.
Very culty. It reminded me of Get Out. It actually reminded me very much of that kind of vibe where you're like, is this guy really that friendly, or is he just creepy? Yeah. And so he made me second guess. So where I'm going with this is that I think he was pretty good at doing what he was doing. Yeah. But I agree that the characters were not really important to the story.
Yeah, because Little Crow was Dennis Quaid's lackey, so why couldn't she have just had a lackey too? Although she did adopt them years earlier when they didn't have money.
Yeah.
So, you know, it's
Well, and I think it was part of the story arc to try to convince us how cracker she was, that she was manipulating
Her own children.
her children
Right.
in order for her gain. Because there were several scenes there where she's figuratively standing on them and saying, "You got to do this,"
Right.
and "You've let me down again," and all this sort of stuff. So very abusive type behavior. But nonetheless, I thought that she was very good at her role as well. Amy Brenneman.
yes. Yeah, judging Amy.
Judging.
My grandma just always called it Amy. So it's like, got to go, Amy's on. Okay, grandma. I will say, I did also like at the very end, after the lawsuit is wrapped up, I mean, some really big things happen in the last, like, 3 to 5 minutes of the
Don't
episode.
say it.
We're not spoiling it. Adults does not like it when I spoil things, so I'm...
Especially when we're the first 3 people to watch the show.
So some very, very big things happen in the last 3 to 5 minutes, but before those things happen, after the lawsuit is wrapped up, Griffin Dunn's character says something like, "Oh, so that's it. You know, going out, not with a bang, but with a whimper." And then it kind of showed what the people involved in the lawsuit, like the plaintiffs, like what they were doing. And I mean, that's kind of it, right? Like, even though this really big thing just happened, you still just have to get on with your everyday life.
Right.
So it's not, even though the really, really big things actually did happen in the last couple minutes of the episode, like, you know, for many people, this is just, it's real life. Like, you just got to keep on keeping on.
Yeah.
So it's not like, oh, suddenly the plaintiffs, their lives are either yay, better, or boo, destroyed. It's, you know, it's just like, this thing happened and now we have to keep on going. And I thought that seemed like it was realistic, having not been involved in a lawsuit myself personally.
I'm going to cite one of your favorite movies, Fargo, in that same regard, as it reminded me of William H. Macy is scraping the ice off the windshield of his car, and he's in the middle of this terrible thing that, you know, with the kidnapping and everything like that, and he can't get out of it, and the world is closing in around him, and he's scraping the ice off the windshield of his car, and he loses his cool, and he's like, and he smashes the windshield with the ice scraper, and he loses his cool, but the scene stays on, the camera stays on him, and then he settles down, and then he goes back to scraping the ice off his windshield. That was a very cool moment by the Coen brothers. Is like, usually what happens in TV and Hollywood is they move on and there's dramatic music and that. But this is everyday life. It's like, you can throw a fit, but you still got to scrape the ice off the windshield. Right,
exactly. Like 3 years ago, something pretty traumatic happened to me, and I still had to keep getting up out of bed every day and feeding my dog and taking a shower and buying groceries and putting gas in my car, and life goes on.
That's the thing. And I think a lot of people know that. You live that, and that's probably why we go to escapism, is so we don't have to go to those routine things every day. It's like, well, let's see what happens here. There's a new and exciting world of Goliath season 3.
A new and exciting world of Goliath season 3 featuring a goat.
Right. Many random appearances. So this, again, was another Twin Peaks kind of thing. Randomly, the goat in the vest would show up. The door would open to the elevator, and there's the goat standing there. I don't know how the goat pushed the button to get the door to open, but...
Very cute goat.
It was interesting.
Maybe instead of soup, maybe Amy Brenneman should have concentrated on goat yoga. Like maybe that's the thing. Like maybe
Goga.
they're big. Yeah, Goga. Maybe the almond compound should have just been like some kind of yoga retreat in the Central Valley instead.
Again, Hollywood, we have all sorts of ideas.
We do. Why don't people call us?
I don't know. Maybe they are sending emails to us. We're just not looking at the email account.
No, but you're looking at it now, though.
CocoandDalts@gmail.com.
You can also slide into our DMs at Facebook at Coco and Dalts.
And we have CocoandDalts.com, where we review everything that we watch, everything we read, and everything we listen to. It's really exciting.
I've reviewed one thing. Dalts has reviewed literally everything else on the website.
It's true. It is. Yeah. It's true.
Any final thoughts?
Final thoughts. So season 4, is it going to happen?
So the first 3-ish episodes, I was thinking, wow, maybe this is the final one, because some characters from the previous 2 seasons were brought in, and I was like, oh, maybe this is the final season, and they're going to wrap up the storylines for those characters at the end of this season as well, and then
including William Hurt was fantastic as a creepy lawyer Cooperman.
Right. So speaking of going out with a whimper, not a bang.
Yeah.
I was like, wow, maybe we are going to go out with a bang, and all these dangling threads from the first couple of seasons are going to be wrapped up.
It's going to be like Avengers Endgame.
Exactly. And one of those threads was tied up, but one of them kind of wasn't. And then also some things happened in the last 3 to 5 minutes of the season finale that make me think, no, I think there's going to be season 4.
There were some major threads untied, unraveled.
I will say I'm kind of surprised that they went to drought as an issue when they set up season 3 to be this lady, this Manchurian candidate has been installed as mayor, so now the Mexican drug cartels can control the ports and run their drugs.
I thought we were going to see more of that.
That's what I thought we were going to see more of too. And instead, the Manchurian candidate made some appearances, and that was it. Nothing related to drugs, all related to water. So
I'm purely speculating here, but I'm thinking that maybe they got such a huge backlash from season 2.
They didn't even want to.
That they decided, you know what, let's go back to the drawing board. And I think they held to their guns a little bit because it was still wacky like season 2. Like season 2, you're like all of a sudden somebody's got an arm chopped off and you're like, what? I wasn't even expecting that. Give me some notice.
And then the KY comes out and you're like, oh dear.
Right. And there was that whole fetish thing that Mark Duplass's character had. So there was a lot of random stuff there that wasn't Twin Peaksy. It was kind of just funhouse freaky.
Just people did a lot of drugs when they wrote those scripts.
And I think they did for this third
season
2, but it all kind of came together. It was at least seamless and it seemed like it was edited a bit together. So, but there were a couple of times when I'm sitting there watching these scenes unfold, it's like, okay, I get it. Hallucinogenic scene. Let's shut it down. But I'm thinking they're like, oh, we spent $1 million here today on this set and all this makeup
to make this pin look like a snake that Billy Bob's tripping on.
Let's get a good solid 5 minutes out of 45 or 50 minutes on this particular scene.
Right.
So so season 4. Do you want to see a season 4, or are you good?
Yeah, I'd see a season 4.
Yeah.
Yeah, but depending on the season 4, I might be out after that. Like if season 4 is more like season 1 and season 3, okay. Yeah. But if season 4 is more like season 2, where it's just like toddlers on a rampage in the writer's room, then I'm like, yeah, no, I'm done.
Mescaline makes an appearance in the writer's room.
Totally.
It's like, okay, maybe not.
What about you? Are you into season 4?
I think I'm in the same boat as you are, surprisingly. I'm not just agreeing with you because we live together, but I think that if they develop it a little bit more, and if there's not a corny, the ending was a dream kind of thing, to resolve the ending this year and go into season 4, I think I'm good. I'd really like to see Patty's character again. So, and Billy Bob and Patty have a really good chemistry together. I'm interested to see what Billy Bob's daughter does, because she seemed to develop a little bit more of a less of a supporting role and more of her own kind of story arc as well. But yeah, I would take it. But the thing is, there's so many things going on that if there's not a season 4 in a couple of years, like they took 2 years between season 1 and season 2, and then they went
they did?
Yeah, they went 16 to 18 and then 18 to 19 for this season. So they came out quickly with this season, relatively. If they take another 2 years, like who knows where we'll be in another 2 years with TV. So I'm thinking if they come back quickly, I'm in, but it might work to their advantage though. It might be like, oh yeah, I remember liking that. So maybe I'll go back to it. But if it's too soon after, they might be like, no thanks. So
keep talking while I look up and see if Goliath season 4 is a go.
I think that Billy Bob Thornton is the perfect person for this role, and I'd like to see more of him in that particular role. I would be interested to see if they do something like Breaking Bad, where they have a character go out onto their own and have their own movie. So like Patty could have her own movie or something like that.
Oh, that'd be good.
Like a one-time only thing, not necessarily a series. There's lots of possibilities there, especially with Billy Bob. I imagine Billy Bob is getting a lot of offers from Hollywood to star in things that are not Goliath. So,
well, according to the interwebs, as of today, it has not been renewed or canceled. But I think they took a long time to renew for season 2.
Yeah, they did. That's why it took so long to see season 2, right?
Yeah, so maybe Amazon is just waiting to see what kind of numbers season 3 gets.
Well, I think they're waiting
especially after the crap fest of season 2.
I think they're waiting to see what we thought of it.
Right.
Because they clearly listened to us after season 2 and changed direction in season 3.
Coco and Daltz are interested in season 4, so all right.
Thumbs up.
Throw whatever kind of money Billy Bob wants at him to get him back here.
Well, that's it for this week. Thank you again for joining us. Another episode of the podcast. For another episode, I'm not Coco.
And I'm not Daltz.